relaying the message.
Okay, next question. Who will read the next question? Yeah.
So Pandavas were guided by the direct instruction of Lord Krishna on the battlefield. The emblem of Hanuman on the flag of Arjuna is another sign of victory.
Yes.
Because Hanuman cooperated with Lord Rama in the battle between Rama and Ravana, and Lord Rama emerged victorious.
Yes.
I think one person is missed.
Krishna is addressed as Madhava, the goddess.
Madhava.
Yes, okay. Sorry. So what is the answer to that question? Yes.
Whenever and wherever the Lord is present, the goddess of fortune is also there, because goddess of fortune never lives alone to another side. Therefore, victory and fortune are awaiting Arjuna.
Thank you. That's 2 marks. Okay, so then question number 10. List all the symptoms indicating the imminent victory of the Pandavas who were completely sheltered in the Lord. What is the answer? How many such symptoms were there?
6.
Okay.
Krishna is on the side of the Pandavas.
Yeah.
Krishna is present with the goddess of fortune.
Yeah.
War is fought on Kurukshetra.
Mm-hmm.
Chariot given by Agni.
Mm-hmm.
Hanuman emblem on the chariot with the flag.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pandavas were virtuous, pious.
Okay. Among this, also the presence of the conch shells being blown. Everything. Sorry?
And then Gandhi was given by Indra.
Yes. I mean, on the Pandava side, they had Krishna,
Yes, that means.
the presence of the conch shell, Arjuna's chariot and bow, Hanuman as a flag, and Madhava. These are the symptoms. If you've got any 4 of these, that's full marks.
What are the full marks?
Sorry?
What are the full marks for that question?
Sorry?
What are the full marks for this question?
Oh, if you get any 4 out of these 6,
Okay.
that is full marks.
2 marks?
2 marks? It's out of 2. It's out of 2.
Can you just repeat the answers?
Yeah, sure. So the first is that Krishna was personally present. Madhava, husband of the goddess of fortune. The presence of Agni and, the Agni-given chariot and the Gandiva bow. The presence of the transcendental conch shells. And what are the other 2? Hanuman present. And what is the last one?
The pious nature of Arjuna.
Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra was the other one. Okay. So then 14. List the salient points from Srila Prabhupada's purport to verse Bhagavad Gita 1.28.
Anyone who has devotion has all the good qualities.
Mhm.
Arjuna was very compassionate, and he was not compassionate because he was weak, but he was just very soft-hearted person, and he was feeling that compassion because he was focused on the interest and welfare of everybody else, and he was thinking about them.
If anybody has these 2 points, that's full marks. The point that, and if you quoted the verse Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Kinchana, then that's a bonus.
And then another point is non-devotee lacking, having the material quality, but
Yeah.
lacking the devotional quality.
Yeah. Prabhupada, in that verse, Prabhupada quotes that. Yeah. Okay. Number 15, list the salient points from Srila Prabhupada's purport to verse Bhagavad Gita 1.30. Anybody?
Excessive attachment to material things.
I wrote that he was kind of looking at short-term goals rather than long-term goals. And I also wrote that it was because Krishna had put him in the Yogamaya state, so that's why he was kind of dissolving. and having his crisis.
Is that 1.30?
Or maybe I'm wrong.
Yes.
No
Yeah, he was looking at like the short term, like lamenting, oh, how am I going to enjoy when there's no one to enjoy it with, that state. He was at that point,
Was
rather
that-
than
was
looking at
that
the
one point?
long-term effects of their victory. But I could be wrong, that's just what I read.
Okay. I think 1.30, the Prabhupada's focus is slightly different.
Okay.
Excessive attachment to material.
Please, continue. So, hang on, wait, please.
Excessive attachment to material things puts a person in a bewildering position.
Yes.
And this affects those too affected by material conditions. So
Yes.
when a man too is frustrated in his experience, he thinks of his own welfare and not the supreme one's real self-interest.
Yes.
By Krishna.
Also, as soon as Arjuna started to focus on Vishnu, that's when he started to regain himself. But when he was just focusing on his own desires,
Well, that Prabhupada doesn't exactly say in a purport. That would be in a continuation, right? Of that statement. The first point is, it's a variation of this point. Bhayam dvitiya biniveshatashyad. The nature of the material world is fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium. Prabhupada says such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium takes place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. And then, this one sentence, the words nimitani viparitani are significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? And then third point, one's real self-interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers materially. So that's the third point. So be kind when you're marking. Provide a score out of 16 and share it with your companion. How did everyone feel about the test? Was it okay? Did it help?
I think it helped. It helped me understand the first chapter a lot more.
Okay.
Because I had to really actively look through and search out the answers to the questions.
Good.
This end of chapter quiz is really
Helpful.
really good idea.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. But here, marks are not important. The idea is to study the chapters thoroughly. In some places, what they do is they report the group average, not individual marks. So when you look at the group average, you see together as a class or as a group how we are all progressing. And it becomes much more about everybody doing things together and studying and trying to encourage each other rather than individual competition. Which is also fun sometimes.
So can I just clarify, each question is 2 marks?
2 marks each, yes.
Okay, yeah, okay.
How does everyone feel they did? Okay? Or good? Okay. Okay. Shall we go on to the class? Text 2. Let's read the verse together. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmalam Midam Vishame Samupastitam Anarya Jushtam Asvargyam Akirti Karamarjuna. Can someone read the translation?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all the man who knows the value of life. They live not to the higher planet, but to me.
Thank you. So remember, this section finishes in 2:10 when Arjuna surrenders and Krishna begins to answer Arjuna's questions. So here's the first time that we hear Krishna speak, and he's addressed as Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So what does the word Bhagavan mean from last week? So Bhaga means opulences, and Van means one who possesses. So one who possesses all possible opulences. And we listed them last week. This were?
Knowledge.
Fame, wealth,
fame, wealth, beauty, renunciation,
and strength.
Yep, thank you. Now, we discussed the point last week that every one of these things is what we are attracted to in people. Anything we find in someone else that is attractive is listed in these qualities. And so therefore, it is Krishna alone who is all attractive. And Prabhupada makes the point, if any nomenclature can at all be attached, any name can at all be attached to the personality of Godhead, it is Krishna, the one who is supremely attractive. But these qualities also mean what? Is Krishna a person or is he not a person? Krishna is a person. He is a supreme person. And Prabhupada will comment on this. Because in India, or in Vedic culture, there have traditionally existed two types of spiritual practitioners. Those who aim to merge into the general effulgence of the Lord, and those who accept Krishna as being a person. And often there's a huge and heated debate between the two. But Prabhupada quoting a verse from Bhagavatam, does anybody know what this verse is? So here is the verse. Vadanti tat. Sorry? Tat tattva vidas. Tattvam yaj jnanam advayam. So, Vadanti means no. Tat means that, supreme absolute, truth, tattva. So that tattvam, yaj jnanam, advayam is an important word. Advayam means non-dual. It is not different substances. It is one substance. You can't see? So this word advayam means non-dual. The substance is not many categories. It is one category. And then, yajganam advayam, brahm. Yeah, this is not good. Can we get a proper black pen? So, okay, I would focus your attention on Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada quotes this verse, 1-11. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yaj jnanam advayam. The word advaya means non-dual. It means a substance or a truth that doesn't have individual categories. And what are those different visions, or what are the different ways this truth is seen or understood? Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti shabhyate. So just follow the verse. So that one non-dual truth is known in three categories. Brahmeti, or Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Last week we discussed an analogy that Prabhupada describes in this purport to explain this. Does anybody remember the analogy? Sun God. The sun, globe, and the sun rays. So what is the importance of this analogy? Which parts of this example are compared to each of these three aspects of the truth? Effulgence is Brahman. Paramatma. and Bhagavan. Now, when you speak about the sun god, does that mean that you automatically include the concept of the sun globe and the sunshine? No?
Only the Bhagavan will include all parts.
But here the sun god is corroborated with Bhagavan, right? Like, for example, when you speak about the prime minister, do you automatically take into account the government, like the cabinet and the rest of the government? You kind of imply that, right? Because the prime minister, he is the prime among ministers. Implies there are other ministers around, and then they have functions that they carry out. So a prime minister includes the rest of the government. In the same way, the sun god includes all his energies and facilities. But when you speak about the sunshine, do you automatically include the sun god? Just,
Yes.
Why?
Sun God is the main thing.
But when you speak about the sunshine, like for example, if you go to a government clerk who's working in some office, does that automatically include the prime minister and all his functions and duties? It cannot. But when you speak about the prime minister, you speak about all the governing functions that are included in a kingdom or within a country. So in that way, these are three levels at which one can see the same non-dual truth. According to one's level of consciousness, one is able to perceive this truth to different degrees. There's another analogy that expresses this point, that of a hill. Does anybody know this analogy? Okay. So here it is.
Abhishek, can I just check? Bhagavan is the sun god.
Yes.
Brahma is the sun rays.
No, Brahman is the sun rays, yes.
Paramatma is the globe.
Is the globe. The reason Paramatma is compared to the globe is because it has a form and a structure, but you don't directly interact with Paramatma. But with the sun god, he's a person, he has his wife, who can't actually look at him because his effulgence is too much. But he has his own wife, he has his own children. You know who the sun god's children are? Yamuna is his daughter, and Yama is his son. So he has his own family. And he has his own life. He was instructed by Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, and he instructed his disciple in Bhagavad Gita. But none of this is included in the function of the sun itself. So in the same way, Krishna as Bhagavan, it implies his name, form, qualities, pastimes, his interaction with the devotees. But none of that is included in Brahman. And we will come to this analogy to describe it a little bit more. Now let's look at the second analogy that is used to describe this. And that's of a mountain. When you see a mountain from a distance, what do you see? Like a very far distance, say 100 kilometers away. What does it appear like?
You don't see it underneath, you just see the top.
You kind of see the top, but what color is it?
Green.
Is it green? It's bluish, isn't it? It looks like distant clouds. So from a very far distance, it just looks like clouds. When you go a little bit closer, what do you see? You see its contours more defined. You see the kind of trees that are there. You might even see a few people moving around and some cars going up the mountain. But it is a closer vision. You kind of see what is there. You don't need to write this part down. You have more detail on what is there in the mountain. But when you go to the mountain itself, you can actually experience the fruits of the trees. You can experience the warmth of the soil. You can experience interaction with all the living entities there. So when one sees Krishna from a very far distance, without a direct sense of a relationship with him, one sees him as this effulgent spiritual light, which pervades everything, which sustains everything, which is the cause of all material creation, which supports material and spiritual existence. When one goes a little bit closer, one sees his form as Paramatma, present in everybody's heart, and providing knowledge, forgetfulness, and remembrance from within everybody's heart. But then when one begins to deal very personally with that same absolute truth, one has a relationship with him as Bhagavan. So in this example, again, the Brahman feature, there are three features of the absolute truth that are spoken of. These are Sat, Chit, and Ananda. What does Sat mean? Eternity. What does Chit mean? Knowledge. And what does Ananda mean? Bliss. So the Brahman, the very distant view of the Lord, just comprises the feature of his eternality. So when worshippers are looking towards Brahman, they are simply looking towards eternal existence, towards a stage of liberation. When one focuses on Paramatma, one understands his Sat feature and his Chit feature, the feature of his eternality, the feature of his complete knowledge, as the personality who inspires knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness from within our heart. And Bhagavan, one understands his Sat feature, his eternality, his Chit, his being full of knowledge, and full of bliss. So in this verse, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, that personality who is the eternal absolute truth, who is complete with knowledge, complete with all kinds of beauty, all kinds of qualities, who is filled with compassion for every living entity, is instructing us to bring us closer to him. And because his very nature is Ananda, by association with him and his instructions, we become blissful. So here Krishna is addressed as Bhagavan. Why would Vyasadeva not address Krishna as Sri Krishna Uvacha or Sri Govinda Uvacha? He wants to establish the authority of the Lord. We're not dealing with an ordinary person, we're dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here is Prabhupada's purport. Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical. Therefore, Lord Krishna is referred to as Bhagavan throughout the Gita. Bhagavan is the ultimate in the absolute truth. The absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding, namely Brahman, or the impersonal, all-pervasive spirit, Paramatma, or the localized aspect of the Supreme within the heart of all living entities, and Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this conception of the absolute truth is explained thus. Translation: the absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding by the knower of the absolute truth, and all of them are identical. Such phases of the absolute truth are expressed as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These three divine aspects can be explained by the example of the sun, which also has three different aspects, namely the sunshine, the sun's surface, and the sun planet. The original analogy that Prabhupada sometimes uses is what we use there, the sunshine, sun globe, and sun god. Here Prabhupada shifts the analogy a little bit. Sunshine, sun's surface, and the sun planet. One who studies the sunshine only is a preliminary student. One who understands the sun's surface is further advanced. And one who can enter into the sun planet is the highest. Ordinary students who are satisfied by simply understanding the sunshine, its universal pervasiveness, and the glaring effulgence of its impersonal nature may be compared to those who can realize only the Brahman feature of the absolute truth. The student who is advanced still further can know the sun disk, which is compared to the knowledge of the Paramatma feature of the absolute truth. And the student who can enter into the heart of the sun planet is compared to those who realize the personal features of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Therefore, the Bhaktas or the Transcendentalists who have realized the Bhagavan feature of the Absolute Truth are the topmost Transcendentalists, although all students who are engaged in the study of the Absolute Truth are engaged in the same subject matter. The sunshine, the sun disk, and the internal affairs of the sun planet cannot be separated from one another, and yet the students of the three different phases are not in the same category. What is the qualification that enables one to realize one of these aspects, or the level to which they're able to approach the Absolute Truth in terms of closeness? First, is it our knowledge that allows us to go closer or realize these aspects of the Lord?
Mercy.
Okay, which implies?
I don't know the answer, but I'm just saying, I think it's mercy of Krishna. Unless we have the mercy of Krishna, we can't reach any.
Right. So in other words, it's a revelation. When Krishna reveals himself in different attributes, we are enabled to come closer to him. What is it that attracts Krishna's mercy? Well, so many people inquire, even academics inquire. The number of questions they ask, we probably wouldn't be able to match it.
As you become purified through chanting and following the principles.
Okay, but attracting mercy, how do we attract mercy? By pleasing him. Bhakti. Transcendental loving service. So by performing devotional service to please Krishna, one is enabled to understand him in different phases. Which implies what? What is the amount of bhakti that someone who realizes him as Brahman has in comparison to the amount of bhakti one who realizes him as Bhagavan has?
Just with this example, I heard in a lecture by His Holiness the Krishna Maharaj, he was saying from a distance, if a big function is going on and Krishna is over there, from a distance we see the light. We go a bit closer, we see something, yes, maybe this dress. We go more closer and we can see Krishna is having a flute in his hand. That's the nail polish. Peacock feathers there, everything, how many gold strings he is wearing, what kind of flower garden he's in, we can see that. So from a distance it's only light, but when you actually go further you can see Krishna.
Right.
Just with this analogy I heard that.
Thank you. But then in answer to my question...
Your question is, why I'm talking about this is from question is, so when someone has only limited just some mercy, little bit, they're from far away. It's like
they're allowed entrance at different levels.
So they have to pass through, and then when they're going to clear through all of that, the ultimate goal is to realize Krishna, to see Krishna.
So let's take that analogy one step further. If someone is at a party, and one can either stay far away or see from the outside, or actually go right in, what does that imply in terms of the strength of the relationship between that person and the people who are hosting the party? If someone is far away or someone is inside, who's closer? Inside. And so what does that imply about the nature of how this person has tried to interact with the host of the party?
It's a reciprocation. You don't get any reciprocation in the Brahman. So you do a transcendental service to Brahman, there is no reciprocation.
Right.
Because it's impersonal.
But what it means is that this practitioner has not tried to build an intimate personal relationship with the Lord. Their motivations have been different. It's kind of like, for example, if someone is working with a supervisor in a PhD, it is a distant relationship. And we'll come to this analogy later on. But imagine you have a PhD officer or a professor in a university. A student is working on a PhD. Now, through the PhD, you build a general regard, a general respect of trust, a general relationship of respect and trust. But it is not necessarily so that your professor will take you on a holiday. That he will do for his personal family members. So it implies that his personal family members have not worried about the business side of his personality. They have interacted with him just to be with him. They didn't have the motivation of getting something else from the relationship. So this implies that those who are interacting with Krishna and they understand the Brahman level of their personality, their motivation is liberation. The reason they are there with Krishna is to be liberated from this world, and they engage in bhakti as a secondary component to their devotionals, to their general practice. Or they engage in devotional service for the purpose of liberation, while having other parts to their life. But one who engages with the Lord as a person, who devotes his entire time to interacting with Krishna as a person, such a practitioner is enabled to realize Bhagavan and actually be Krishna's intimate associate. So, coming back to the verse, Kutastva kashmalam idam. So, the word kashmalam means impurity, dirtiness. Kuta means how. So, Krishna's first words are words of chastisement. From where has this dirtiness of your heart come? Vishame samupastitam, in this hour of crisis. Anarya jushtam asvargyam. Anarya, Arya means, and Prabhupada will comment on this, and Arya is not the German concept of an Aryan. Hitler actually borrowed this terminology from Sanskrit literature. But previously in academic circles, the term Aryan was used to describe the ultimate human being. And this is when academics were moving around to try and find the origin of the human race. They didn't know whether it was from Germany, some people said it was from India, some people postulated something else. But they were trying to find this Aryan or superhuman race from whom all of these other races came about. Hitler took that word and said it was the German, blonde hair, blue eyes person. But in actual fact, the Aryan is someone who has an understanding that life is a transitory, is transitory, and it is ultimately meant for one's inner spiritual development. He understands that he is the spirit soul, different from the body, and his entire life is focused on uncovering the nature of the spirit soul. So in Vedic culture, particularly the highly trained personalities, the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, less the others, they would be trained to be Aryans. No matter what profession they adopted, whether they were herding cows or had some business or were managing a kingdom or were teaching as Brahmanas, they were taught, they all went to Gurukul, and they were all taught that your life is temporary, but you are a spirit soul, and you have so much more than just taking things in this world. Understand that you have to grow internally through this life, and ultimately you need to be free from identification with this world. This was a value that was established, and one who had this value and lived life according to this value was called an Arya. So when Krishna talks to him and says that he's Anarya, he's saying that you're behaving like one who doesn't know what the right thing to do is. They're not, in the translation, they're not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. Asvargyam. They do not, Swarga means heaven. Swargyam means that which takes one to heaven. Aswargyam. This is not going to take you to a heavenly planet. It's not going to take you up. Rather, it is going to take you down. Because you're not living life for internal development. You are living life based on other values, on the bodily concept of life. And this is just going to take you down. And akirtikaram. Kirti means fame. Akirtikaram. Karam means it'll cause you to become infamous. So Prabhupada says in the purport, in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna's lamentation for his kinsman is certainly unbecoming. And therefore, Krishna expressed his surprise with the word kuta. Where from? Where has this come from? Such impurities were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. The word Aryan is applicable to persons who know the value of life and have a civilization based on spiritual realization. Persons who are led by the material conception of life do not know that the aim of life is realization of the absolute truth, Vishnu or Bhagavan, and they are captivated by the external features of the material world, and therefore they do not know what liberation is. Persons who have no knowledge of liberation from material bondage are called non-Aryans. Further down, Lord Krishna did not approve of the so-called compassion of Arjuna for his kinsman. As an example, if someone out of compassion kills animals to feed those who are hungry, is this Aryan behavior or Anaryan behavior? Why?
Because they are killing some jiva to feed another jiva.
Yes, but then think about what is going to happen to the spirit souls of those whom you're feeding. They are in that position because of previous activities. So rather than just, you can feed them in other ways. You can feed them prasadam, for example. But if one were to feed them prasadam, one would satisfy their stomach and also help them as a spirit soul progress forward. And oneself would also progress. But this is misplaced compassion. Compassion of someone who is an Anaryan, one who does not know the value of life, one who does not know the purpose of life. Okay, text 3. Klaibyam masmagama partha naitattvai upapadyate kshudram hridaya daurbalyam tyaktvo tishta parantapa. This is a slap. Klaibyam means impotence. Now you think about the stereotypical warrior, and the very word that describes a warrior is virility, that potency that they have, their strength, their stamina. When you speak about warriors and you go to those museums, you see people who were 7 foot tall, who had a sword that was heavier than anything that we've ever lifted, and that is practically like 6 foot long. And you see them wielding it with such great stamina and strength. They are the very emblem of virility. But here, Krishna is saying you are impotent. You are sagging down like a girl. You have no strength. You have no manliness. Where's your virility? Ma smaga kama partha. Why have you become so impotent? Don't yield to this degrading impotence. Naitvai upapadyate. It is not you. You are much more than this. It does not become you. Kshudram hridaya daurbalyam. So at this point, Arjuna was like, hey, Krishna, wait. It's not that I'm weak, but rather I'm trying to bring in thought to just, before I just go ahead and use force. I can use force. You've seen me before. But how can I raise my hand without proper thought of whether this is right or wrong? And so therefore Krishna says, Shudram hridaya daurbalyam. This is just petty weakness of heart. This is not consideration or thoughtfulness. It is simply your heart has become weak in presence of your attachment. It is not that you are guided by knowledge. You are being guided by your attachments. And you're using your knowledge to justify your attachments. So this is not your knowledge, this is your weakness of heart. Don't try and pretend this is something else. Tyaktvo tishta parantapa. You are an Anaryan. You are an Aryan. You're behaving like an Anaryan. Give up this weakness of heart. Tyaktva, give it up. Uttishta, get up. Parantapa. And I know you have the ability to do this. Parantapa means, O chastiser of enemies. You are capable, but it's just a weakness of heart. Give it up, stand up, fight. Prabhupada says in the purport, Arjuna was the most intimate friend of Krishna, and Krishna was directly guiding him on the chariot. But in spite of all these credits, if Arjuna abandoned the battle, he would be committing an infamous act. Therefore, Krishna said such an attitude in Arjuna did not befit his personality. Arjuna might argue that he would give up the battle on the grounds of his magnanimous attitude for the most respectable Bhishma and his relatives. But Krishna considered that sort of magnanimity mere weakness of heart. Such magnanimity was not approved by any authority. Therefore, such magnanimity or so-called non-violence should be given up by persons like Krishna under the direct guidance of, like Arjuna under the direct guidance of Krishna. Text 4. Arjuna uvacha katam bhishmam maham sankhe dronam cha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyotsyami pujarha varisudana. So the word Madhusudana means the killer of the mother demon. The name Arisudana means killer of enemies. Madhu was also a demon. And so here Arjuna is addressing Krishna twice, which indicates his mental disturbance. Imagine in a sentence you say, Krishna, why have you done this to me, Krishna? Is that grammatically correct? Not exactly. It's an expression. Why are you making me do this, Krishna? I don't like this, Krishna. It's just like out of mental disturbance, he is speaking in this way. And he's saying, Madhusudana, you killed a demon. And Arisudana, you are killing your enemies. But the people you are asking me to kill are neither demons nor are they enemies. You're talking about Bhishma. Katam Bhishmam aham sankhe dronam cha. You're asking me to kill my grandfather and my guru. Both of them are highly educated personalities. They're knowledgeable in all the Vedas. They know everything that is right and wrong. They are to be worshipped. Isubi pratiyotsyami. Pratiyotsyami means how can I counteract? Even how can I... Isubi means with arrows, how do I counteract? You can counteract your superiors with words. You can, like talking back to them. You can counteract them with arrows, or even through your body, like, they call this, remaining in a rut, where you don't want to listen. But with your body, with your words, even with your mind, or with arrows. Among all of these things, if you physically retaliate to one superior, that is the worst kind of, all kinds of retaliation. If at least one said, no, I'm sorry, I can't do this, that's one level, which in Vedic culture one should still one is not supposed to do. Actually, Vedic culture is so subtle about these kind of things. Outside the temple once, we saw a man, and there was an elderly gentleman next to him. For some reason, I don't know what was going on, the elderly gentleman just took his hand and slapped the younger fellow on the cheek. And this person was holding his cheek like this, and he was still speaking, no, it's not like that, it's not like that. He received just one really big slap. Now, if this happens in the West, what is the likely reaction? I mean, you might not hit back if you have culture, but you're going to hear all kinds of swear words, you're going to hear an immediate reaction, and suddenly the relationship will not be maintained. But in Vedic culture, even if one's superiors chastise one incorrectly, the subordinate thinks, I'm receiving chastisement for something else that I have done, and it is coming to me through my karma in this way. But it is not for me to counteract my elder. He's a superior, he's an elder. Whatever he says, let me just take it. And if I can express my point, I'll express it in a calm way. But just leave it, it's okay. They don't like it, but this is the culture. Now, Krishna was telling Arjuna, you fight and kill them. And Arjuna was saying, how is this etiquette? This is not etiquette. You're asking me to do something that's not right. So this is not weakness, Krishna. So Prabhupada says, translation, Arjuna said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counteract with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? Purport. Respectable superiors like Bhishma the grandfather and Dronacharya the teacher are always worshipable. Even if they attack, they should not be counteracted. It is the general etiquette that superiors are not to be offered even a verbal fight. Even if they are sometimes harsh in behavior, they should not be harshly treated. Then how is it possible for Arjuna to counteract them? Would Krishna ever attack his own grandfather, Ugrasena, or his teacher Sandipani Muni? These were some of the arguments offered by Arjuna to Krishna. So that's the significance of the word Madhusudana and Arisudana. Text 5.
Just a question, Prabhu. The Arjuna did fought against those of them in the Virat.
Yes, he did.
So now he's speaking.
But they started it. And at that time, he wasn't trying to kill them. He was just trying to push them back. It is true that he did counteract them, but also, if you remember, he fired arrows at their feet, and he took their blessings to fight against them. So before the battle started, suddenly, 2 arrows were fired in the air, and they just landed at Drona's feet. And Duryodhana was like, hey, he's firing. That's not etiquette. Drona was like, you don't understand, because you would never do such a thing. By shooting arrows at my feet, he's actually touching my feet and asking for my permission. And then Drona raised his hand and said, may you be victorious. And then he did the same for Bhishma, for Kripacharya, who were all his superiors. They all blessed him, may you be victorious. And then they started fighting. If you also remember, when Bhishma fought Parashurama, first Parashurama started releasing a torrent of arrows, and then Bhishma just stopped. And he just counteracted those arrows, then he put his bow down. Parashurama was like, what happened? And then Bhishma got down from his chariot. Parashurama was Bhishma's guru, by the way. So he just got down from his chariot, went and he offered obeisances to Parashurama. And he said, my dear guru, I seek your permission to fight. And Parashurama lifted him up. He said, had you not done this, I would have cursed you. But go and fight fairly and well. I will not bless you with victory because I want to win myself. But go and fight. So then Bhishma went and fought. And if you remember, when Arjuna fought his own son, Chitrangada, at that time, he fought, and because his son was ruler of another kingdom, Arjuna had come with a horse, and he wanted to, have that sporting relationship with his son. And he was like, why are you such a woman? Come on, fight, you're a Kshatriya. And his son said, but you're my father, how can I fight? I'm telling you, fight. And he was still trembling like this, what am I supposed to do? Then the mother came along, don't worry, fight, it'll please your father. So then he took his father's blessings and fought. But this is Vedic culture. Text 5. Guru nahatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhaiksham api haloke hatvarta kamamstu gurun hi haiva bunjiya bhogan rudira pradigdhan. Translation.
It would be better to live in this world by breaking than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teacher. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with the blood.
How different Duryodhana's culture and the concept of life that he had. A Kshatriya is trained to take like this, never to take like this. He's always trained to take. It is forbidden for a Kshatriya to beg. But Arjuna is saying that I'm prepared to give up my pride, I'm prepared to give up everything, if it means, if the alternative to begging is that I have to kill my superiors and take things which are tainted with my superior's blood, it is far better that I just beg. So he says, Gurun ahatva hi mahanubhavan, who are great souls. It is better than killing them. Shreyo. Shreyo means it is better. Bhoktum bhaiksham. Bhoktum means to eat or enjoy. It's better to live life, to maintain oneself through life by bhaiksham, by going and just living on other people's mercy. Hatvarta kamams tu guru nihaiva. To kill for artha, to kill for one's personal gain. It is not good. Bunjiya bhogan, because that would mean that one would be enjoying things with the blood of one's superior. Rudhira means blood. Pradigdhan, smeared with. So rather than taking things which are smeared with our superior's blood, it's better just to live by picking. Purport. According to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. Bhishma and Drona were obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because of his financial assistance, although they should not have accepted such a position simply on financial considerations. Under the circumstances, they have lost the respectability of teachers. But Arjuna thinks that nevertheless they remain his superiors, and therefore to enjoy material profits after killing them would mean to enjoy spoils tainted with blood. So Prabhupada in this purport points out why they could be killed. Because they were not acting according to the instructions they themselves had given. Not that one kills one's teacher, but what is an example in Bhagavatam where the disciple rejected his Bali Maharaj? Shukracharya told him not to surrender to Krishna. But it is the Guru's order to surrender to Krishna. And it is the Guru's order also to reject the instructions of those who tell one not to surrender to Krishna. So when his own Guru was telling him, because of other motivations, to not surrender to Krishna, Bali Maharaj said, no, this I cannot accept. Please forgive me. Text 6. This is the last of Arjuna's words. And by this time, he has achieved a state of confusion, a state of, he doesn't know what is right and what is wrong anymore. Because he sees, yes, my duties compel me to fight. Why was it important for Arjuna to fight? Why? I mean, what was the problem with Duryodhana being king? He was already king. Clearly the world was going on. Why is it necessary for Arjuna to fight?
For the rightness.
Why? Is it better to be right or just let things go on? I mean, who cares? What happened to them personally?
Krishna wants to establish dharma.
Okay, so why would it mean that Duryodhana would have to be replaced? He was doing okay. He was taking care of Brahmanas. He was not Ravana. He wasn't killing all, or Kamsa even. By our standards, he is actually a saint among politicians.
But he had heard
He even looked after cows, you know. He used to count cows to make sure they were all okay. Our politicians don't do that.
Kshatriya is supposed to rule.
Yeah, that's okay, but then there's a higher principle of, there's so many higher principles than just Kshatriya duty. Kshatriya duty is for one's personal fulfillment. But there's a more important thing involved here. Yes, it is what Krishna wanted, but why is it important why did Krishna want this? What is the problem with Duryodhana?
when Krishna's devotees are hurt, he is pained and he is hurt, and Draupadi was insulted, and so many things happened.
But Krishna, okay, that part is true, but then Krishna also had another purpose in wanting to replace Duryodhana. Okay, so why is it, okay, so what is the problem then if Duryodhana is still leader?
He can't rule.
He's not giving land.
He is not pious, and he is not giving lawful land to the Pandavas.
Yes.
And in no way he is right to rule the country.
Yes, actually the first point is the most important thing. Imagine if our Prime Minister was someone who used to mishandle ladies within the Senate or within the parliamentary building. If that was the example he was setting, what would the other citizens in the country do? Sorry, go on.
He had to be exemplary.
He has to be exemplary.
Because his religious principles weren't on a higher level, Krishna came to say, these standards are not right. The Pandavas had the pious or the virtuous group, and he preferred them to get the rightful position.
Yes, because imagine you catch a person who's mishandling women. Imagine Duryodhana himself caught such a fellow and brought him to the court. What would such a person say? You're punishing me, but you did the same thing. So why should I be punished? Can you see people using this to justify their actions? See, that's the problem. Now, if Arjuna had not removed Duryodhana, not only would, of course, Duryodhana was setting a bad example, but any future sins committed by so many people, he would be responsible for it because he had the ability to change the situation. If I allow someone like Hitler, when I can stop him, and I know what he's capable of, if I allow him to take charge of a kingdom, and I may say, okay, I'm detached, I can't do this. He's my friend, I can't hurt him. And he commits all these atrocities. Am I not responsible? As a position, as maybe if I'm a chancellor or something, do I not have the duty to stop him, even at the cost of my own life? Because if I don't, I am the one implicated. I can't just stand as an impartial party. So this was actually Arjuna's position. He had to do it. He was responsible. He was accountable for what Duryodhana would likely do, or the example that he would set. This is why it was important for him to fight. But at the same time, because of his attachment, he was trying to pull all these ideas together to try and justify why he should not be fighting. And that is why he was confused. He should fight, but at the same time, he can't. Sorry.
Can you put Karna in the same position as well? Because she had the ability to stop Duryodhana. He didn't agree with Duryodhana on many of the occasions.
Yeah.
But he just came along with him just to keep his friendship.
Yeah. Karna was, in that sense, a tragic figure. He knew what was right. When Krishna came to him, he said, I know the Pandavas are right. I know Yudhishthira is fit to rule. Krishna said, come to the Pandavas' side. You will be emperor of the world. He said, don't give me the throne, because if you give it to me, I'll give it to Duryodhana, and he's not fit to rule. Karna actually said that. But here's the thing. Because he was attached to Duryodhana, and rather he wanted to maintain his own moral standards in the face of everything that could be right. No, I have to support my friend. He's been my friend. He has taken care of me. How has he taken care of you? When nobody respected me, he gave me the kingdom. That was his idea of why he should respect Duryodhana, not for the actual reason of right and wrong, but for this is how mundane friendships usually work.
Can we also say that during this game, Pandavas were asked to go to exile, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once they are finished, they should get what they are entitled to. But Duryodhana doesn't want to give it.
Yes.
So Arjuna wants to fight. Can we say like this? Or?
Yes, but then there has to be a bigger reason for wanting to fight than personal injustice. And that was Arjuna's point. It's not just a personal thing. We think about the other consequences. If I suffer, that's okay. But in his case, it is not just him suffering, it's everybody else also. Sorry?
Why Arjuna would be responsible? Because, when all these things like with the game or with the doctors, it's like his teachers were also there and grandfathers.
Because he could have stopped it. He can stop it.
Stop like being that in a superior position. So because Arjuna or Bhishma, he's in more superior position than Arjuna or like.
But he's a Kshatriya. A Kshatriya is somebody who is supposed to be the representative of the Supreme Lord. And Yudhishthira Maharaj was obviously that empowered representative, but it was their duty as a Kshatriya to establish right, even at the cost of their life. Brahmanas would die for the sake of truth. Kshatriyas die to protect other people from harm. Kshatriya, the one who protects other people from harm. So a Kshatriya gives his physical self, no matter how weak or junior he is, to stand up for what is right. And if you remember, even Vikarna, Duryodhana's brother, stood up in that assembly and said, I don't know about all of you, but this what is being done is wrong. Draupadi's question is not being answered. He stood up as was his duty. But regardless of superior, junior, everyone, if Bhishma didn't object, and nobody else objected, someone has to stand up and say this is wrong, even at the cost of his life.
One more point I would add is Duryodhana is not suitable for the role because he doesn't understand the Varnashram Dharma. Because during that example where 4 people were brought in front of Duryodhana and Yudhishthira,
he could not judge them properly.
So he has no respect for the Varnashrama Dharma, and Varnashrama Dharma is the basis where Krishna wants to establish that particular.
Well, yes and no. The actual point is that he's not Krishna's representative.
Yeah.
So when one does not have bhakti, then all the other rules and regulations go up and down. It's like if I don't understand that the goal of life is to go to Krishna, and I'm put in a position of rulership, maybe the foundation I work with it is everyone can do what they like as long as they don't harm each other. You want to wear miniskirts, wear it. You want to start a big shopping mall, start it. But I don't have any basis by which I can decide what is right and wrong. But if I understand the goal of life is to go towards Krishna, then I can try and ensure, if I have jurisdiction over a particular place, that everything that happens is in line with this foundational principle. So that was Duryodhana's problem. Let's move on. Okay, text 6. Na chetad vidma kataranna gariya yadva jayema yadivano jayeyu yane vahatva najiji vishamas devastita pramukhe dharta rashtraha. Translation.
Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield.
So this is Arjuna's final, 5th objection, indecision. In the purport, Prabhupada points out the state of confusion that Arjuna was in. And this verse is the climax of Arjuna's presentation. Because after this, he realizes that he's incapable of making a decision. So here's what Prabhupada says. Arjuna did not know whether he should fight and risk unnecessary violence, although fighting is the duty of the Kshatriyas. If he did not conquer the enemy, begging would be his only means of subsistence. Nor was there certainty of victory, because either side might emerge victorious. Even if victory awaited them, still if the sons of Dhritarashtra died in battle, it would be very difficult to live in their absence. Under the circumstances, that would be another kind of defeat for them. So the point is that Arjuna saw defeat no matter where he was looking. If we don't fight, that's our defeat. If we fight, everybody is killed, we are still unhappy, that is still our defeat. And I don't see an option for me here. I don't see where I'm supposed to go. Now, here, Baladev Vidyabhushan offers a very important comment. And we touched on this last week. This is what he says. He quotes a verse from the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad and says, one who thus has knowledge. How has Arjuna displayed knowledge? By his knowledge of understanding how society should work, by understanding the difference between sin and piety, by understanding that he should not be killing his superiors. So many considerations. By understanding that if you don't have traditions, you're going to spoil future generations. So many offerings to our forefathers will be stopped. All of this indicates that he had knowledge. One who thus has knowledge, who has control of the mind and the senses. How did Arjuna display control of the mind and senses? Well, he didn't want a kingdom. He was prepared to just, he didn't want Swarga. He said, I cannot see myself being happy with this kingdom. Or now kingdom, can you imagine how much opulence one has at one's command? If you were told, you can get $30 million or $30 billion, you can have 3 houses here, but that just means you have to, maybe stand in an inappropriate way in front of photographers. Would you do it?
So is it a way of being not being corrupted by the power or the wealth?
Yeah, but
and not compromising your principles or your values.
Control of the mind and senses. But many people actually get that, right? If you give them $13 million, or you give them the chance to have 2 houses, would people do inappropriate things? So many of them would. But Arjuna was not prepared to do that. When we say he was willing to give up this kingdom, he was willing to give up more than 30. How much wealth is there in the world? How many trillions of dollars is there in the world? Every single thing was under their control and their opulence. The best of women, the best of wealth, the best of all enjoyment. He said it's not worth it. He has control over his mind. So not only here, but in Swarga also. People here to people in Swarga look like cockroaches. Did you know that? The men and women there are so beautiful that the men and women here look like cockroaches. And he was willing to give that up also. So one who has knowledge, one who has control of the mind and senses, who is indifferent to the world, who is tolerant. How was Arjuna tolerant? He was prepared to go with ups and downs of life. He was prepared to live by begging, which means you have to be tolerant. You have to be prepared to have people reject you. You have to be prepared if people, give you something or yell at you or spit at you. You have to be tolerant of all these things. One who's tolerant and filled with faith. How was Arjuna filled with faith? He was respectful of his elders. Remember there was also a verse in the first chapter where he said, I have heard from my authorities. Do you remember that verse? So he was respectful of elders, he was respectful of superiors. He had faith in Shastra, he had faith in Guru. So here's the verse. One who thus has knowledge, who has control of the mind and senses, who is indifferent to the world, who is tolerant and filled with faith, should see the Supreme Self within himself. In other words, he is qualified to be instructed in spiritual life. Without these qualities, if one is instructed, it won't actually touch one's heart. We see so many people who are at such crossroads, but you give them the knowledge of body and soul, it doesn't go in, because they don't have the reflection, they don't have the qualities by which they can contemplate this knowledge and try and apply it in their life. But these were Arjuna's qualifications, and this is the wonder of Arjuna's lamentation.
Could you say that he has faith because he chose to have Krishna instead of the army as well?
Yes.
Like he was offered a whole army, which sounds like it would have given him the upper hand to someone who didn't have the knowledge and faith.
Yes.
But he chose Krishna?
Very much. He had faith in Guru and Krishna. Once Prabhupada was asked, what is the most important verse in... Actually, not Prabhupada. Prabhupada once asked on a morning walk, what is the most important verse in all of Vedic literature? And devotees began to quote, Sarvadharman Parityaja, Manmanabhava Matbhakto, all these important verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada said, no. He said the most important verse is this. One who has faith in Krishna and the same faith in Guru that one has in Krishna, all the import of Vedic knowledge is revealed in his heart. Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tata guru tasyaiti katita hi artha prakashante mahatmana. Only unto such a great soul are all the imports of the scriptures revealed. And this is the most important qualification, Prabhupada said.
Is it also fair to say the fact that Arjuna was even listening to Krishna, that's a sign of faith in itself? Like he didn't just say, okay, I'll go and see you later to the forest. Because it's really interesting, then like later on Prabhupada reminds us that even if someone hears, that's an act of faith.
Yeah. He's willing to listen, willing to try and understand, willing to try and apply it. The sign of faith.
His relationship was a friend because he was
counter-arguing.
So,
but that's now about to change.
Yeah, if you have a friendship with someone, you can say something to them and know that it's not going to offend them, but because you're intimate, you'll open up to them, in a way that if it was someone else, it might offend them, but with Krishna and Arjuna, there was a different...
There was a different relationship, but still as friendship. Actually, sometimes when Krishna they would speak about their respective battles as just part of being friends. And when Krishna would say, so I did this and I did this, Arjuna would say, my friend, you're being very truthful today, like making fun of him. But they would have that kind of relationship also. But now Arjuna had developed a slightly different mood. He was starting to see Krishna as his superior. And that's the next verse. Text 7. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava prichami tvam dharma sammuda cheta yachreyasha nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapannam. So karpanya dosha. Karpanya means miserliness. I am not able to think in a broad-minded way. I am thinking according to just my concept of what is right and wrong. And my concept is based on the body. So karpanya dosha upahata svabhava. And being afflicted with this false concept of who I am confused. So therefore, prichami tvam. Prichami means I ask you. Dharma samuda cheta, in the state of confusion. Dharma samuda, I don't know what is right and what is wrong. I don't even know who I am and what I'm supposed to do. Yat shreyasyan. Shreya, there are two words in Sanskrit. There is preya and there is shreya. Preya means immediate benefit. Shreya means long-term gain. And I don't know what is ultimately beneficial for me. I don't just want something immediately. I want to know what is actually good for me. Yat shreya shan nishchitam. I am confused, but I want you to tell me with confidence. You whose intelligence is actually sharp, who's focused on the truth. Please instruct me. Tell me with confidence whose intelligence is bewildered. Bruhi tanme. But I'm not approaching you as a friend. I'm now approaching you as a disciple. Shishyas teham. Shadimam. Tvam prapannam. I have spent so much time arguing, and all my argument has just resulted in my becoming more confused. Now I don't know. I'm your disciple. I'm not going to argue anymore. Please instruct me. Until this point, Krishna has not given Arjuna instruction. All he said is, come, get up, fight. But now he's asking Krishna to tell him, to teach him, and I won't argue anymore. And it is only now that Krishna will begin to instruct Arjuna with a test in between. Prabhupada's purport. This is one of the most important verses, possibly the most important verse up to now. Prabhupada says, by nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step there is perplexity, and therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life, which happen without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear, without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we become perplexed. The Vedic wisdom therefore advises that in order to solve the perplexities of life and to understand the science of the solution, one must approach a spiritual master who's in bona fide succession. That is the purport of this verse. Where is this example of fire described? In which song? Samsara dava nalalida loka tranaya karunya gana ganatvam. So dhava nalalida loka. So it's not just a fire, it is a forest fire. And a forest fire, have you seen how quickly a forest fire can spread? Somehow, you don't know how it starts. You're in the forest, you're taking a stroll. In the same way, we are in this world, we're trying to find a small place for ourselves. We're trying to find a simple, happy family, a small place where we can just call home. And without our being able to control it, there are so many perplexities, difficulty in just making an income, difficulty in finding a place to live without being disturbed by neighbors or even by our family. We just want a happy family, but our partner may want something, our children want something else, or our parents, want other things altogether. And suddenly life, which is supposed to be, very simple, we never think of life as being complex when we enter into it. I go to a job, I just want to work, get some money, and I want to experience career satisfaction. But then the manager's expectations and so many politics, and it just becomes so complex. My mind is just bothered, and I come home. My sister came crying home practically every day for 2 years because of company politics. But then even in a relationship, you go through one, you may try two, you may try three, but in each time, just different minds and different expectations, different desires go in different directions. It's so difficult. How do you manage children? It seems so simple, right? Get a job, get married, have children. So many years of life just goes in trying to make it work. So much goes in trying to make it work. It's like a forest fire. You are there, you don't know how it starts. It starts, and then very quickly it spreads like a conflagration. And you don't know how to get it, you don't know how to solve it. And the only way is to approach a spiritual master. Tranaya karunya ghana ghanatvam. So the spiritual master is like clouds who sources water from the ocean of Krishna. Gunarnavasya is Krishna, the ocean of qualities, the ocean of mercy. The spiritual master sources mercy from Krishna, and he pours it on the disciple. Not that the situation stops, but the experience is no longer the same. That fire is completely quenched because one is given the perspective in life, not to try and enjoy and try and force things to work, to push things that are painful, to pull things that are favorable, and this pulling, to try and make things work. Rather, one is given the perspective that through one's life, one as a spirit soul is going closer to Krishna. And Krishna has things that he wants us to learn. So let me go through life, and through life, learning to become increasingly sheltered in the Lord. This is the real art of life. And a spiritual master gives us that knowledge by which we understand that Krishna is the goal of life, to intellectually convince us on this point, to remove the doubts that prevent us from understanding this point, and then to live life in such a way that we experience Krishna's shelter no matter what situation we go through. See the plan that he has for us in every situation that we go through, and thereby transcend the difficulties. This is what a spiritual master does. Continuing with Prabhupada's purport. Who is the man in material perplexities? It is he who does not understand the problems of life. Further down. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human. This is Kripana. And who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs without understanding the science of self-realization. Why is a person who lives in the bodily concept of life, why is he called a Kripanna? What does that word Kripanna mean? Miser. Who doesn't use his wealth. So one who doesn't use the wealth of his time in a human form of life, who is miserly with his time, who simply keeps time without properly spending it in the right way, is a Kripanna. A person with a very short perspective on life. But then Prabhupada says, on the other hand, there is the Brahmana, or he who is intelligent enough to utilize his body to solve all the problems of life. The Kripanas or miserly persons waste their time in being overly affectionate for family, society, country, etc., and the material conception of life. One who is often attached to family life, namely to wife, children, and other members, on the basis of one is often attached to family life, namely to wife, children, and other members on the basis of skin disease. The Kripanna thinks that he is able to protect his family members from death, or the Kripanna thinks that his family or society can save him from the verge of death. Such family attachment can be found even in the lower animals who take care of children also. Being intelligent, Arjuna could understand that his affection for family members and his wish to protect them from death were the causes of his perplexities. He was just trying to, do the right thing, but then suddenly his situation had become so complicated. Although he could understand that his duty to fight was awaiting him, still on account of miserly weakness he could not discharge the duties. He was therefore asking Lord Krishna, the Supreme Spiritual Master, to make a definite solution. He offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop friendly talks. Talks between the master and the disciple are serious. And Arjuna wanted to talk very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. Krishna is therefore the original spiritual master of the science of the Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. How Arjuna understands the Bhagavad Gita is stated in the Gita itself. And yet foolish mundane scholars explain that one need not submit to Krishna as a person, but to the unborn within Krishna. There is no difference between Krishna's within and without, and one who has no sense of this understanding is the greatest fool in trying to understand Bhagavad Gita. This is actually the most important verse and the centerpiece of the sections covered so far. We have crossed 12 o'clock. Hare Krishna. Okay, would devotees prefer to take questions, or we can consider the class closed and then people can ask questions as they want? Okay, Granthara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai. Thank God, Premanande.
How can we actually have a relationship without a spiritual master?
With Krishna?